Hey guys, this is Those Guys with your host Matt Marrero along with the other host,
Tristan Walter.
And what are we talking about today, Tristan Walter?
We are talking about Attack on Titan.
So, I'm ashamed as an anime fan. I have not seen this show yet. This is the first time I'm watching it. And for all of you that are bemoaning me out there, you're right. You're not wrong. All right, I'm not gonna put you down for that. All of you are correct. I'm sure there's now a public outcry of just how have you not? And my response is, yeah, I know. Basically, usually what happens is, we have so much going on here with TG Productions. We have Those Guys Play. We have Those Guys on the radio. We have so much going on that I only get the chance, usually, there's some exceptions, I only get the chance to watch things when it relates to the podcast, or even sometimes play games when it comes to Those Guys Play. So this was a cultural phenomenon. This was a huge hit. And I remember once I tried watching a few minutes of it, but I think I was watching it, I was in college at the time, and I was in the cafeteria, and then some people came down, and then they interrupted me watching this anime, and then I just never got back to it, and it was really frustrating because I wanted to see it. There was so much hype around it, and I don't think that from what we're doing today, which if you can see in the title, we're doing Season 1, Episodes 1 to 12, I don't think the hype was misplaced. I actually understand why the hype is there. It's very... In some ways, it's very different, but then in other ways, it's so similar. With the idea of the main character being superpowered, literally in this case, that in some ways, I feel like it's just like, I don't say just like other anime because it gets so weird that I don't want to say it's just like all your other anime with titans coming out of the sky. Right? Like it gets very different in some respects, but in others they fall, to similar anime tropes with the, typical shonen protagonist. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I can understand that the differences are what brought in people to kind of see like what's all the hullabaloo, right? What's all the hype about? And then some of the typical tropes, obviously felt familiar to some of those either same people or to other people who have, watched anime for a long time. So it felt familiar while also feeling extremely different.
Yeah.
Like, that's my take on it. Now, Tristan, you saw this show before I did, clearly. You saw it through Crunchyroll, I think, a while ago, right?
Yeah, I did.
Right, but you also saw it after there was all the hype. I don't think you saw it before the hype.
I didn't see it. I saw it like midway through.
You were hearing some buzz, but it wasn't people cosplaying it at every corner, every con.
Yeah, pretty much. I started it like that summer, I think, because it came out in spring. Oh, this is like 2013. Yeah, wow.
Something like, and oh my god, yeah. The manga was delayed. I'm pretty sure it's doing well now. A full disclosure: this is the one anime that I definitely did not read the manga for. Usually I attempt to, and I read maybe a few chapters or a volume or two, and I'm not caught up. So far, I have not touched the manga. I'm going to try and do it before we do the second half of Season 1. But as of right now, I have not touched the manga. Just putting it out there for everybody. But yeah, so Tristan, and you haven't either, right, Tristan?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of manga here and there, but I haven't gotten to sit down and read it.
Oh, yeah, I've seen some of the designs for the Titans from the manga. That's all I've seen, and good God. That's what I'll say. Jesus H. Christ. But yeah, I saw this recently. But yeah, you saw it. You said in the summer when it first came out.
Yeah.
And
so I wasn't one of the people that watched it immediately as soon as it came out, but I caught up to it like a few months later, and I basically marathoned it within a weekend.
I mean,
I was that hooked.
Yeah, this is a very good show to marathon. I would argue on a weekly basis you would also feel very inclined to keep watching with some of their cliffhangers. Some I think more important than others, where I feel like early on, even though like I'm not saying there aren't big moments at the end of the episodes, but earlier on, because it's backstory, I think I didn't expect all this backstory for the characters early on. I thought they were gonna, because I saw everyone cosplaying and because I saw the character designs, I assumed they would start them off ready to fight. I didn't realize that they would actually take time to show them as kids, to show them growing up, like, you know, like Eren, Armin, and Mikasa. I didn't realize that Armin. I didn't realize that they would show them growing up in some ways. And in a way, I'm happy they did, because, you know, I like that they went through that effort. But I think earlier on, I don't know if it was interesting because it's weird because I think maybe if you knew nothing about the show, you'd sit there and go, oh my God, is this one going to die? But after, like, if you've seen just the opening alone, you're like, no, they're already older than they look. So clearly these kids are going to survive.
Right, yeah.
God knows about their families.
Yeah.
But they will survive. And obviously they did. It's so interesting, though, to see Eren's determination and to see how much he's a hothead. And I want to know... It's funny, we've gotten so much backstory on Eren, but yet I still want to know a lot more. And it's not even about the origin of his powers. I actually, in a way, don't care about that, only when compared to why he is such a hard ass about everything. Because it's to the point when I'm pretty sure he's 7 when the show first began. Or, well, then again, it was 5 years when he looked like he was like a teenager.
Yeah.
So, but like even then, even if it was like 5 years after, well, it was 5 years after, right? So let's say he was 15. So he's 10 when he starts talking shit to the garrison in the first episode, right? But here's the crazy thing, Tristan. When you look at the flashback that they did, where he, just casually fucking killed 2 dudes.
Yeah.
I'm kind of... Because he was clearly... Like, it was a few years... Because Mikasa looks like she's a bit older than him.
I feel like she was probably a year or 2 older than him.
Yeah, in the flashback, she doesn't look older. But here she does. And she definitely does when they, jump 5 years. She looks a lot older. So, I'm sitting here thinking... I don't know how old she was when, they first rescued her and brought her into their home, but he looks like he's 7.
Yeah, I think like 7 or 8, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's a pretty young age. Now, you might just say, well, it's an anime, write it off. And if so, okay. But I'm just wondering what he's seen in the world at that time of his life to tell his dad, like, well, if she treats me nicely. Now, you were telling me before the show began, Tristan, that, oh, well, he may have been bullied, and that's, like, because he seemed to be someone who would always, get into fights. So he might have been bullied, and that might be why he was saying, oh, she treats me nicely, and why he looked down on people. But, and I agreed with you there, actually. I was like, you know what, Tristan, you're right about that. But the fact that he straight up orchestrated the stabbing of 2 dudes.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think it's just the depressive nature of their lives, because, like, he even says it, it's like, this barely even constitutes as a life. We're livestock in a cage. It's like, and that's, I mean, talking about the Titans, but like, I mean, he still knew like the outside world was dangerous even before that point. And I think it's just the combination because, I mean, kids can be very perceptive too about their surroundings. Maybe not being able to understand it all completely, but I feel the feeling from people, I think, is what kind of molded him to be the way that he was at such a young age.
Also, and that's a great point, they went to check up on her and her family, on Mikasa and her family. Where did they go?
So they would have still been, I'm pretty sure they were still within the walled territories, but like the third ring has, it's kind of like the countryside that hasn't been settled completely.
Okay.
And it's like almost like pioneering, like out, just like settling down, building your own house, and like you're basically on your own. Like if you need help, you are screwed.
So wait,
your neighbor is like miles away from you.
Right, and you say third ring, as in the is that, are you talking about the King's Ring specifically? Because there's...
No, I mean the third ring, the third wall out. So I guess technically the first wall if you're thinking about going inward.
But isn't the first wall the one where we start off in with Eren and Mikasa?
Yes.
Okay, so sorry, because to me it always feels like that town is the smallest part, but you're right, it extends.
Yeah. Well, because they have like smaller rings where there are like small towns like that are kind of on the outside of the wall, but there's still a wall around them, so it gets confusing. You need, like, they show a map of it at one point, and it makes a little bit more sense when they describe it with the map in front of you.
Good point. I think that this series was very strange the way they started. And it's funny because everyone's like, well, no shit, Matt. But, well, no, it's not even about the Titans necessarily. It's about the way people react to things and the way they... And, of course, that would happen when you have, Titans like this coming around to eat you and your family. But I think it's just crazy. As a way for I think the author just wanted to let you know, like, you're going to get something extremely different. And if you don't like that, then sorry, like, I guess don't watch, right? It's not going to be...
isn't for you.
Yeah, and the reason why I say that, right? You might be like, well, people, watching be like, well, it was different, yes, but why do you say that direct, like, exactly about the author or whoever? And look, I don't know the author, right? I haven't actually been able to read any interviews about what the author thinks about, their work, right? But obviously in making the work, I would assume that they don't hate it. So my point is that when I'm referring to, just them when I talked to you over the phone before we began this, right, Tristan, I said, the example I gave you was Erin's mother dying in the first episode. But now, as the episodes are playing in the background, because that always happens when we do podcasts, it's the fact that the dude just hands the mom of another soldier, hands her an arm. Now, I know you might say, or someone might say, well, that's something for her to bury.
Yeah.
But, like, he handed it to her as if, like, it was a baby, and I only, in a weird, sick way, I kind of laughed because I was like, I just imagine like a baby with the apparatus and everything.
Oh, God.
Which is funny because I think there's a Chibi Attack on Titan show.
Oh, yeah, I think it was a spinoff.
Yeah. Made by the same people, made by the same author, I believe. I don't think it was the same author, but the anime was made by the same company that made this.
Yeah.
And I think Funimation picked it up too, I'm not sure. But yeah, there was a chibi version of that. And, I just handing her the arm, I was like, I assume that's a piece of his body? First off, I was like, that's not the head because it was long, but I was like, oh God, what are you bringing? And then the arm, and I'm like, why is this appropriate?
And the fact that it's even like, it's already starting to discolor.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, that was, ooh.
Yeah, it's interesting because I understand why Erin's mom would not want him to join the army, but I do think it was so interesting how she immediately was just like she came off as like a super hippie, and I don't mean that in a bad way, just like this is literally, you're dying for nothing, you're not fucking doing this.
Yeah.
It was.
That seems to be almost everybody's opinion of the Scout regiment too. It's like, they go out and then what do they get from it? They get, half the people come back completely injured and can't even work the farms at that point, or they're just dead outright.
But I think this is hilarious only because, and I use the word hilarious because this isn't like in our terms, right? Like in our world, right? The real world. You're fighting people. Yes, the weapons get bigger, but you're fighting people. If we're fighting people that are the height of skyscrapers,
right?
I don't think I'm gonna say that. I mean, maybe you would argue, oh, it's a waste because, well, what are they gonna do? They can't fight them anyway. And my response to that is just like, well, then what are you gonna do? Nothing.
Yeah, pretty much. It's basically live your life and keep your head down, and that's it. And granted, a lot of people had that, it was only mentioned briefly, really, but, like, the walls are kind of, like, holy to them, and it's like, they lived 100 years without the Titans getting in. So...
Yeah, I guess it's just considered general complacency by some, like, oh, we don't even need them anymore, let's just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the phrase, my tax dollars are going to that, and I'm like, dude... Oh, I'm so sorry you can't get your new iPhone. Oh, that's fucking right. What technology, like, what do you need to buy? You can't buy food because the resources are scarce anyway.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you gonna get with your money, you idiot? Like, I'm sorry, I don't know, maybe I'm the jackass here. But, like, what is he gonna buy? I want to buy a new sword. For what, jackass?
Yeah.
I want to add an addition to my home. Do you fucking have the resources for that either? Like, what the fuck? Like, I laughed so hard and was like, my tax dollars are going to these to these idiots. And it's just like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you going to use it on, dickbag?
And then Aaron just smacks him with a piece of firewood, and I'm like, yeah, you get him.
Honestly, yeah. I was like, hit him. Because, like, what are you going to, like, yeah. Especially, by the way, it also didn't occur to me, but it occurred to me, like, literally in this moment. When you're basically shitting on dead troops.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah, you should probably go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
What's interesting... Oh, okay, so before... Because I was going to get something way later. But I wanted to ask, like, what's your opinion on the Titans? Because I told you mine before we began the podcast. I'm going to bring it in. But, I want to ask you, what's your opinion on the Titans? Like, maybe their history or just something about, like what the fuck is going on?
I mean... There's so because I've seen the entire season.
Okay, so like without talking about that,
I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
That would tip you off, but like, there's so much that because they're only learning about them bit by bit, and Aaron even makes the claim about how 5 years ago, they were still a mystery, but like we know a lot more about them in the sense of they know how to kill them. But as just my overall outlook on them, they are terrifying. I think it's the fact that they look like people that makes it all that much more eerie. Because, like, even with some of them with, like, the really silly running animations, like, some people would say I would see that and just took all the tension out of it for me. But in a way that almost off-put me, like, even more. I'm like... And even some of them with a really goofy face on, and it's like, it's still charging you. It's still 4 times your size. And then you would see it, just step on someone, and they would, like, go flying like a piece of chewing gum stuck to a runner's shoe. And I was like, yeah, that's an actual person.
Yeah.
It would all just flood back for me. It's just, they're unsettling. And I really like it. At least for me.
I think it was a your mileage may vary thing, because for me, I found the ones with funnier faces funny, but not in a way that I would go, oh, well, I guess they're not menacing anymore. Because it's like, dude, just because they're funny looking doesn't mean they're not going to step on you. So, like, if they existed in real life, you'd still be dead. So, it doesn't change. Like, they could literally look in your window to try to find you. So you can't be, hiding anywhere near any windows, which good luck depending on how your house is built. So they can look in your windows and then just stick a hand in.
And, like, they have, like, there's varied intelligence between them, it seems. Like, some of them just seem a little bit more brighter than others. Like you said, one can look in the window and, like, realize it's like, oh, there's a human in there. I'm gonna reach in. And others might just bypass you, but, like, that's the thing. You won't know until it's basically on top of you.
Yeah, and honestly, all you need is 2 to destroy a city.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they really don't have any defense. Like, even cannons do barely anything to them, because unless you cut that section of their neck, they will just regenerate.
Right.
So, yeah, like, you can hold them back with cannon fire, but it's like, it's not going to stop them forever.
Yeah, and that's actual one thing I just said about, you only need 2 to wreck a city. That's the only thing, not the only, but that's one of the only things that I find a little, I'm not the biggest fan of in this series. And I know that you have to increase some of the dialogue for dramatic tension and things like that. But at many points during this show, they make it look like, oh my god, they're overrunning the city. But a lot of our characters, despite the fact that many of them die horrifically, it still seems as if they're able to stand around for a while.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's kind of like, unless they kind of, like, notice you and are looking at you, they can still walk past you?
Well, no, my whole thing is, good point, like you said, some of them are very intelligent. No, my whole thing is that, in many scenes, it looks like it's like, oh my god, there's 20 of these, and they're fucking huge. So you're like, oh my god, there's 20 of them in this city or village, really, and there's the village so small, or the area looks like it's so small compared to like what we've been shown on camera. You're like, oh my god, like everyone's dead because there's 20 of them. It's like having a horde of like 200 zombies.
Yeah.
You're like, so the city is overrun. But imagine if they would show like clear open spaces where people are running, and you're like, no, they just showed me 200 zombies.
Yeah.
Like, the village should be overrun. So I feel like that was a little problematic. Where I don't know if it happened in the manga as well, but I feel like they want to increase the tension by drawing that many Titans, but then they don't follow through with it because people are able to get away,
right,
or stand around fairly easily. Like when the kids are running to to find their mom, it was like I was sitting there and I'm like, really, only one is coming after you? I imagined like 2 or 3, with the way with the amount that they showed just walking up to the village. Once we had the what was the largest Titan's name? The one that didn't have the armor?
Oh, the Colossal.
Thank you, Colossal Titan. When he breaks everything through, or when he breaks it, you're like, oh shit, all right, so there's no saving anyone now. But enough people are able to get to those boats that I'm like, oh wow. I know that they had that as a contingency plan, but still, it feels as if, at least the way that the Titans are drawn, that they're huge, and that there's plenty of them coming in, and that there's no saving anyone. But they saved a fair amount of people.
I mean, I don't remember the exact numbers, but they even say, like, the people that got on the boats, that was only a fraction of the amount.
Oh, no, yes. I'm just saying that it seemed, especially when they had the armored Titan, which, by the way, does not even look, quote-unquote, humanoid. Like, they called him armored, but I'm like, that one straight up looks like a cyborg.
Right.
Like, mist came out of his fucking mouth.
I mean, all of them have increased body heat, too. Like, the Colossal shrouded itself in steam and disappeared.
Good. Well, that Colossal, there's something fucking weird about that one. Not just its look and the fact that it's giant.
Right.
Right? Just the fact that there's something about it that, like, I'm completely convinced that they came from space. Well, actually, no, I have 2 theories. They either... Well, no, because my whole space theory is because, like, yes, it came down with lightning, and that's how it really comes down. Like, lightning cracks and then it shows up. But it felt like it came down, like, not just with lightning, but, like, it came out from the sky like a meteor.
Right.
Because the thing is, it's like, oh, no, Matt, it's not a meteor. It just came out of lightning. Keep up. But my thought is, right, like, Matt, come on, just keep up with the science. But the reason why I'm thrown off is because why would it never have appeared until that moment? Like, if they're not trying to say that it's from space, then at least it's quote-unquote from the heavens.
Right, yeah.
Because why would it just pop in out of nowhere after 100 years or more? But I think it was 100, they said, is when they first started appearing to wreck shit.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it just confuses me why those 2 just appeared, as if it was just like they were planning it. I mean, they were planning how to take down the wall, which was the way Aaron described it. But when I refer to planning, I mean, like, it seemed like, these 2 just showed up out of the blue. And then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, man, we're good. In fact, we're bigger than all of you. So we can clearly scale the wall. And it's like, what the fuck? Right? Another theory I have is that, I know this might sound silly, I have a feeling that every human that we're seeing in the show is just tiny. Which sounds hilarious, but like it feels like you just turned like a shrink ray on. Like, right. What? We shrunk us down to mini size. But the reason why I say that is because like the minus the regenerative abilities, all of the Titans resemble zombies to me. So like in my head I'm like, did humanity just turn to zombies? And they're just seeing, like, tiny little people.
Right.
Like the smallest of people. And they're just like, well, we're going to consume you. Because it turns out that later on, scientists find out that they don't need to eat people to survive. But then that's technically true of zombies. In many zombie media, if they don't eat you for a while, like, their body rots in the same way that, any human's body would rot. Right. So their body rots, but they don't. Like a zombie wouldn't rot less because they ate you. That's just something going on in their brain that's like, eat people, and brain's like, all right. But it's not as if, at least from the zombie media that I've consumed, you don't really see them getting true nourishment out of people. So it's interesting that neither of these Titans get any nourishment. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in what the fuck's going on there. Also, the trees in the beginning, and I know you mentioned to me over the phone, well, trees used to be larger until we started coming in and cutting them fucking down. But like the trees in the first episode were so large that I was like, are all of you tiny people?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, you were telling me that their mother's death in the first episode really affected you.
Yeah. It's weird. In a way, it kind of just, like you said, the series kind of tells you right up front. It's like, so this is going to get bad and worse before anything gets any better. You know, before you actually see people's lives improving. And if you're not going to, like, if you don't handle that well, then you might want to leave now. And, like, I know it's not the only series, like, oh, come on, you know, it's not the only series that has killed off a parent. But it was just the way that it's done. I mean, she was eaten, ripped in half, and then eaten. And Aaron saw the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, that is on a list of, like, horrific things that I would never want to be witness to. Like, that's pretty up there on the list if I had to make one.
Yeah, and I think what's crazy about it too is that you know, I think people going into this, I mean, if they didn't see any, you know, promotional material about it, they didn't realize that they'd be stumbling upon a late night anime because anime doesn't air here until the dub airs, you know, months or years later. So if you're stumbling upon this on Crunchyroll, you might just, I mean, you might read the bio, but, or you might just be like, you know what, let me see what this is about. People have talked about it. And then you start watching it and you're just like, oh. Cause like I knew people got eaten. I didn't know how bad it would be. And in some respects, they actually hold back in ways. But I know the manga is bloodier.
Yeah.
But still.
Isn't it always?
Yeah, right? Usually it is, yeah. But they still did a very fine job of eating people.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Now I have a question for you, and I'm jumping, you know, in between episodes here a little bit because I don't want to do every single one in order. We'll be here all night. But so did you accept Armin's death like I did?
Aaron's death?
No, Armin's. Like when it first.
Oh,
Wait,
right.
yeah,
Oh
did you-
God, when he's just sliding down.
Did you
his
accept it?
throat.
Because I fucking accepted it.
I mean, he did. And that was the sad part.
No, but I mean, when it happened, I thought, wow, it's way too early to be killing him off. But I mean, you know what? It's okay. It happens sometimes. This is the show that kills people off.
Yeah. And then the fact that Aaron jumps in and tosses him back out. And, like, I really thought he was going to jump out at the last second the first time I saw it through. And then the jaws just come down and his arm flies out past Armin. And I'm like, so I'm just as mortified as Armin right now?
That was honestly my second favorite scene in this show thus far. Yeah. And I think it's, well, actually, no, maybe my first. It happened, one of my favorite scenes happened earlier than it, but honestly, in order of importance, I think that's my favorite scene in the show thus far. And I as much as I enjoy the plot where it's going, and I think that this is the most interesting plot they could have gone with, to be very fair.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little frustrated that it seems like this show is trying to go against certain tropes at certain times, and then wants to remind you that, no, stop it. Stop trying to, like, okay, saying that...
Remind you that we're still in a shonen anime and, like, we're not going to kill off the main character, quote-unquote.
Not even kill him off. Show that he has flaws.
Yeah.
Like,
true.
you know, because here's the thing, right? Before I get to what I mean by that, just one, you know, quick thing I want to, just to wrap, you know, what I was saying literally a moment ago, just for a second. When I say, like, you know, giving him, like, what I'm trying to say is this, right? It is very different, right? It's very, 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 very different to say, hey, he has the powers of these titans, and he's not even becoming one technically, because he is, but he can also inarguably summon one in a sense. Like, he becomes it in theory, but he could also, if he wanted to, if he controls it better, make a separate being. Because he technically did that to protect the two from cannon fire. Right. So, yeah, like, he did that. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait, so you can also make them? Not just become them? So it's a weird mix between, like, Digimon Season 4, when they became the Digimon, but also being able to, like, make Digimon, like Ken, the Digimon Master. But, like, what I'm trying to say is that, getting back to, you know, what I just said about the whole flaws thing, right? Look, I understand, we're not going to kill off our main character. I'm not saying that they should have done it. I'm just saying that when you even look earlier on, when it's, Eren, Eren wasn't good at something, but he worked so fucking hard that he was able to do it.
Yeah.
I was like, that's beautiful.
And you know, the drill instructor, too, saying, like, devotion won't always get you everywhere. You know, not the fact that natural talent is the only thing you should have, but it's like sometimes if, like, even with the devotion that you do have, sometimes you're just not going to get it.
But I'm still happy that Eren said, but you know what, I'm going to try. And it was such a good lesson. I know this isn't a kid's anime. Be the weirdest 4Kids dub. But what I'm trying to say is that, despite the fact that I know it's not a kid's anime, it's still a good lesson to say no matter how, like, if you try hard, you could succeed.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, the clasp was broken. In fact, the fact that you could even do anything with this clasp means that clearly you're the fucking coolest kid on the block. Hey, like, he might as well have turned around and said, hey, everyone, fuck all of you. This man is a god. Like, the instructor might as well have said that. He might as well have looked at every single person and said, you think you're talented, but you're shit compared to Eren. Hey, Eren, yeah, you deserve the year off. You're just that good.
I mean, to be fair, there were still people that graduated in his class ahead of him, and no, you know, that's not even to mention Mikasa.
Of course. I'm just trying to say that the way they played up that scene, at first I was like, good lesson. Then it just turns into, oh wait, this was broken. Wait a minute, he did it when it was broken? Wow, that must mean that now he's even the super best of best. And I'm like, holy fucking shit. Are you serious? And then later on, when it's like, look, it sucks that he died, but, you know, we can turn the focus to Mikasa. And then they gave her more of a backstory. So I'm like, wow, this is a great twist. Right. Yes, he's in the opening, but still, it's a great twist. And here's the thing, too, by the way. If they had brought him back, I'd be fine with it if it happened a few episodes later. Not like literally mid to end of the fight. I was like, well, this is really quick.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of felt like I don't know much about the manga, and maybe it's just this fast in the manga too, but it felt like I was watching a series on fast forward.
Right.
A little bit.
It's weird. It feels like there are moments where I feel like it's going slow, but at the same time, there's still... It brings you right back into the tension, and sometimes the tension is there for so long that you're just like... So nothing's ever going to relax, and we're just going to be like this forever.
Good. I know what you mean. But in some respects, though, it feels like things are going real fast, where it's just like, oh no, you know, Eren's dead. Like, what was it, an episode later? JK, he was the Titan. And I'm like, wait, that's real quick. I know we're watching this, you know, in a marathon, but even then, learning a week later that he's not as dead as you thought, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, I was conflicted because Eren is one of my favorite characters. I connect with that character just because he goes on gut emotion so much.
And also, he's a Titan like you.
Thanks.
No, don't, wait a minute, whoa.
Well, no, I thought you were going to be like, tall joke?
No, I'm confused. We've been friends for what? Like, it's been like 10 years now.
Uh-huh.
Don't you become a Titan sometimes? Like, I'm pretty sure I've seen you turn into like a 50-foot Titan.
Matt, I told you not to tell anyone that.
Everyone fucking saw it! You were 50 feet! Tall.
I'm gonna have to do to you what I did to the rest.
All right, he knows where I live. I'm not going to sit near any of the windows.
It's just an eyeball at your window.
It's like, nope, not a fan of that.
That was a weather balloon, Matt. It was a weather balloon.
Weather balloon staring right at me, Tristan.
Yep.
But no, but in all seriousness, right? Yeah, I understand. Like, I get it. You know, I understand why you would relate to him. But you said you were conflicted because you were okay with the death, like, or accepted it.
Because like you said, it would have been such a good twist, and like, you know, because you don't really see a series, like, at least from what I've watched, like, there are times where the main character is removed sometimes, but there's never been really a series, for me at least, that, like, no, we're straight up killing our perceived main character. And to be fair, I think Mikasa would have made a great main character as well. I mean, she is, like, her, Eren, and Armid are, like, the three people that you follow around the most, but I feel like it would have been interesting.
Especially because I thought, you know, if they did feel weird about, or if the author felt weird about giving completely to Mikasa, you could still give some of it to Armin.
Yeah.
And still grow, and have Armin grow from that experience. And again, if you're gonna bring back Eren, I'm not even completely against it. I just think that doing it so quickly, at least in anime form, really took away from it, especially a show that has given you so many deaths.
Yeah.
That it just really took away from something that, like, you know, like you and I are saying, would have been such a huge twist and would have been so different in this world.
Right.
And I think that's really what kind of that's something I really didn't like, because I think the anime and the creator really made certain scenes that you could sit there and go, wow, that's such an emotional scene or such a big scene, and then kind of undid it. And I think those are the only two I can think of immediately, to be like off the top of my head. So those might be the only two, to be fair. But there's still such huge scenes dealing with the main character. Like, you know, it's something like Dragon Ball Z, right? They gave them cosmic cheat codes with the Dragon Balls, and that's fine. Or they had cop-outs where Goku didn't really die, and I get it. I can understand why someone would go, but Matt, you know, you love Dragon Ball Z, and Tristan, so do you. Yeah. Why would you not say anything about that? It's like, because at that point in the series, we had a long-running shonen anime that was known to do stuff like that, and had such weirder things than the Titans, I would argue. If you really break down what DBZ and Dragon Ball, like the villains and some, you know, and stuff like that, if you break them down, they're even fucking weirder than the Titans, honestly. So, like, they had such strange things going on that, like, saying, like, oh, Goku isn't really dead. He's training with a bunch of aliens on how to do instant transmission. It's just like, cool, all right.
Yeah.
Right? Let's wait till Future Man gets here and see what's going on. No, that's basically what it is. Let's wait till Future Man gets here and beats up Robo King. Well, I'm sorry, Robo Prince and King. Right. So, like, that's, like, yeah, it gets weird, right? But here, it just felt as if, especially because of how different it was in having the Titans, and having all of these very graphic on-screen deaths, and having the society that, I guess, seems like if our world eventually kind of got, you know, screwed up based on the fact that Titans exist.
Yeah.
Because there's still a monarchy. Right? It looks as if they're in Europe.
Yeah.
So it looks as if it is our world, in the same way that in Code Geass, it was our world, except that in the Civil War, I think it was the Civil War, Europe won.
Yeah.
That was the origin of Code Geass, and then for some reason it's like Europe won, and that's why we have giant mecha. And I was like, fuck it, I'll take it.
Right.
I as an American, I don't know how I feel about Britain winning, but we have giant mecha, so, you know, I think I'll take the trade-off. But yeah, one thing I have to say before we get back to that, I just have to really put this out there. This is one of the, and this is coming from me, and I've watched a lot of different anime that we've either done on the show, a lot of stuff we haven't done on the show. I think this is one of the best anime openings of all time. I have to put it out there. And I know I might get some flack from that by people who aren't big fans of Attack on Titan. I might get some people who are huge fans saying, why aren't you putting it at number one? I don't want to say it deserves number one, but it's definitely one of the best of all time. If not in the top 5, then in the top 10.
Right.
I think there's a lot of anime out there to say top 5, but I think it can be in your top 10 list. Because it's just, you know what it is, man? It's one of those things where it's obviously the lyrics matter, right? But it's the arrangement of everything that makes you sit there and feel like you don't even want to skip the opening. It makes you feel pumped for the anime. Right. And even though I wouldn't say that the anime constantly has this feel, because you mentioned that sometimes things are slower, especially in the first 2 episodes. While things were very dramatic, they weren't doing any of this.
Yeah.
It was mostly just the kids running around like, ah! So, but once things started really picking up, and the opening started reflecting the anime, which wasn't that far into it, like episode 3 or 4,
right.
I was, like, this was a very hard opening to skip. Because there are some openings, even if you like them, you're like, yeah, I'll skip it, right? I want to get to the good stuff. This was an opening that it was really hard to skip, and it was very hard to look away.
Yeah.
This is one of those openings, just like the first opening for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah.
It just gets you extremely pumped going into it. And that's really what you want going into an anime, into a shonen anime. As much as I love Chala Head Chala, it doesn't get you pumped.
Yeah.
Like, I dance along with it, I sing along with it, it's really nice, right? I bob my head, but I don't sit there like, yeah, Chala! Head Chala! Fuck him up, Goku Chala! Right? Like, that's not the thought. But, like, this song, I feel like this song gives me abs. I lose them the second the song is done. But this song, I don't need a workout regimen. I just need the music.
Oh, God.
Come on. You're telling...
No, I'm just... It's perfect.
Like, this song... Like, if you play this song while playing JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, the first opening... I don't care who you are. You can be... Doesn't matter who you are as a person. Any person on Earth listening to both those songs at the same time will have a 6-pack, but will also be a hairy 6-pack.
Oh my God.
It puts hair on your chest, and then one gives you abs.
You'll be a titan that's built like Jonathan. That would be absolute... I mean, arguably you could say that was the Armored Titan, but...
And the next thing... I just imagine... not Jonathan. I'm thinking of Joseph, yeah. And the next thing you'll say is, "Please don't eat me!" Oh,
God.
But and of course, this is another Funimation dub, which is interesting because I think one of 2 things happened when this dub came out. Well, first off, I hadn't seen a lot of Funimation anime like recently. Just putting that out there, Funimation dubbed anime. But I do want to put out that a lot of voice actors masked their voices, where, like, in some ways, if you don't know Chris Sabat that well, like his voice work, you won't even realize that he was that commander, the one who was a dick that was literally going to kill Eren.
Right, yeah.
That was him.
Or even, like, retreat before all of their forces were back behind the wall.
Right.
Oh, they need my expertise. It's like, sir, our soldiers are still there.
But
close the gate behind me. Fuck you.
Yes, you're right. He was a few different people in the show. But, by the way, I just want to point out, I just love, I wish they focused more, I can't remember her name, on the girl who just loved eating food.
Oh, yeah. I think her name was Sasha.
The reason...
Like, all I remember is Potato Girl.
You're right. Sasha Blouse.
Yes, there we go.
Which is funny because when said out loud, it doesn't sound like blouse. I'm probably sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. But seeing it in subs, I'm like, you literally named her after clothing. But I love...
Like, it feels like each, like, of the characters that are in their, like, in the trainee squad that's just started, or they're just about to graduate, I feel like you have a very nice, decently diverse characters, like, for personalities-wise.
Yes.
And I feel like there are other series that, have more characters, but don't always get that sense of each one feels like they have their own quirk or their own thing. And I feel like this series did a good job with that.
Or if they give them their own thing, it's character-based. I'm sorry, character. Yeah. It's gimmick-based. Where, like, you look at something like Bleach. Just throwing out a random one. Not one that we talk about all the time. Which we do. So something like Bleach, right? Where you might sit there, and I'm not saying that it's not like people don't have their own quirks in some respects, but sometimes they'll just give someone a thing where, like, you'll have like a little kid, like one of the Fullbrings. It was just a kid with a PSP.
Right.
He didn't really have anything that was different about him compared to other characters in the show before him necessarily. He just had a PSP.
Right.
Or another person who was a Fullbring. I forgot her name, but she was very energetic. And you look at her and you're like, she just reminds me of the of one of the Vizardeds.
Right.
Who literally was a similar character, similar height.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, and of course that's just hard to do with, discussing Bleach because of so many characters that Kubo would bring into the universe. But, yeah, I agree with you 100%. They gave these characters, some of them, yes, of course you give that one, Sasha, you give her the whole, I gotta eat, all the time.
Right,
Rah.
yeah.
But she's also energetic. She isn't just like, if you don't give me food, I will kill you. Like,
Right.
no, she's also comic relief in a way that I think the show did comic relief really well.
Yeah.
Something I don't think I mentioned it earlier. The reason why I think I found the Titans that were funnier, like, I was able to laugh with them and not necessarily, like, dismiss them immediately. I just found that to be their way of giving some comic relief here and there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where, yes, they are still going to eat you. Yes, they're, creepy and everything. And some people, like I said, think of it more as off-putting rather than funny. But I laughed, right? But in a way that I was still like, oh, this is their nice little way of injecting humor. Like, you bring in a guy who, has like a long beard and like, a bald spot.
Right.
And it's like, or I can't think of, when they were trying to shoot 4 of them in the face to distract them.
Right.
There was the one that had that face. And you know what face I'm talking about? You know what face I'm talking about? The face.
Right.
And you sit there and you chuckle, but then, yeah, they can die at any moment. So,
Right.
to me, I don't sit there and go, yeah, well, they can't die now because it has a funny face. It's like, oh, yeah, because if someone was trying to kill me, if there was a serial killer, the funny face serial killer, I'm not going to be like, he's not threatening. He just has a knife.
Yeah.
He's not threatening with that blade. It's like, no, he is. Fucking run. Right? So, yeah, I think that it was a nice blend, like you said, a nice blend of characters trying to, get, when they were all training. I think it was sad how some of them died, especially how quickly, because
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I feel like I didn't really get to know them that well.
Right.
Like, I wish we would have gotten to know them a little bit longer. But again, I'm not saying I want filler. So it's really rough.
Yeah.
I don't want them to make new shit up. But I also feel weird at the pace that it was kind of hard for me to even remember some of the characters' names who died. I was like, oh, that sucks that so-and-so died. And then when a person appears again, I'm like, oh shit, that's right. You aren't one of the people that died.
Right.
So it was really rough. Because I think introducing that many characters at once, like, I think it usually is a problem. Here, thankfully, they were all different, but then once they all started dying en masse,
Yeah.
like, I don't know if it was, okay, it increased the drama that they were like, so if we're officially considered soldiers, and then the Titans
Yeah.
came in. It increased the drama, but I think it also rushed some things in a way where, like I said, people who died, I then didn't really connect or didn't really remember their names.
Right.
People that, like, again, Eren dying. I was like, oh shit, Eren died. And then he didn't. And I was like, oh shit, Eren didn't die.
Right.
Yeah, there was, it was, it was, I'll say, like I said earlier, just very fast paced, but in a way that I think sacrificed some character development or just some general world building. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to get that later,
Yeah.
but I definitely think that, you kind of want to know what's going on with the aristocracy, what's going on with the military. Is Eren's dad dead?
Yeah.
Like, because you had that one, the guy that was training them all, you had him, the one that made, the girl that was eating that potato in front of him, made her run all those laps until nightfall.
Right.
You had, it's just so funny, because you had him, what wasn't funny is when he said, oh, you'd be so proud of your son because he's a soldier now. And I'm sitting there going, wait, so then is Eren's dad dead? And even through all these different flashbacks, we don't know.
Yeah.
And that's a little weird, Because I feel like you should kind of know if he's dead or not. Now, you were telling me over the phone before we began the show, you were saying, oh, he's probably just out somewhere. Because it's such a large area. But you would think that, even though he is a doctor, actually, even funnier, you would think that as a doctor he would stay. But more importantly, you would just think that in general, they seem to constantly be under fear of attack again.
Yeah.
So you would think that they would keep their people around.
True.
But, I mean...
I feel like if you have the right channels, though, you can kind of sneak out, and not too many people are going to put in the effort to stop you. That and, like, the whole flashback with the serum that Aaron's dad gives him.
Yeah.
And which undoubtedly has something to do with why Aaron can transform. That's a whole nother just looming thing in the background. It's like, right, this is a thing. How did you do that? Why did you do that? I mean, it kind of even says, like, I'm doing this for your own good, and it's like, it's going to suck, but it's going to keep you alive. Like, well, when you put it that way...
You know, and I have to say...
Kind of right.
I have to say, in no way am I trying to say, at least in the anime, that they weren't foreshadowing, you know, Eren having some kind of superpower.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm trying to say that, and I said it over and over in this podcast, I'm not saying that Eren should have died and stayed dead. Right, because of what they had, because that dream would have then meant nothing.
Right.
Or that nightmare. But at the same time, I still feel as if, you know, I'm still sticking to my guns. And I believe that it would have been very beneficial to the story if he would have died and stayed dead. Again, with all the flashbacks and everything, like I wouldn't have wanted him to, you know, I don't want him to like forego that, because then it's like, wait, what was the point of all that?
Right, exactly.
But at the same time, man, would that have been interesting.
Yeah.
Or if the Titan had been kept around for longer.
Right.
Because I have to admit, I think we all, I'm going to say everyone, because even though I didn't know anything about Eren being a Titan, at least I don't believe I've seen anything about it, right? So, but the way he was reacting and the shit he was doing and the fact that he did hand-to-hand combat, I was like, that's like Eren in some way, right? Like we're just like we're because we didn't even see the same Titan again after he ate Eren.
Right.
So in my head, I'm like, so we're like, unless we're gonna do some weird reincarnation angle.
Yeah.
And I only say it's weird because reincarnation, you know, even if you are a believer in reincarnation, it wouldn't just happen immediately.
No. Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what version of it you believe, and you know, but still, even then, it would still be a thing where, like, you know, he immediately gets reincarnated into a different Titan, like,
right?
Yeah. So, you know, my thought was, are they going for like a reincarnation thing, or, you know, is it? Because I was really hoping it wasn't his will. I mean, technically, it isn't, because he actually has powers. It's not just his will.
Yeah. Right.
But I thought they were actually going to go with his will transformed the Titan, and I was like, "Are you fucking serious?"
Yeah.
However, it's kind of funny because I rewinded it because I was hoping, and it's funny. I was both hoping and not hoping that he was like cut his way out of the stomach.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping for too.
The reason why
I thought might happen
because
God, I think that was probably the most just terrifying scene for me, was just seeing Eren in the stomach acid with all the other bodies. Like that, like when I saw that, I'm like, that is literally hell.
Yeah.
We are witnessing the bowels of hell right now, and it just like it zooms out from the stomach back up the esophagus, and you see, you know, Eren crying out, "I'm not going to die like this," and I'm like, I'll be honest, like I was speechless. I'm like, that was horrifying on so many different levels in my brain.
Yeah, it's something I could have lived without. I mean, yeah. But yeah, I thought it was going to cut out of the stomach. And the reason why, I know like to some people, they're like, you know, why are you saying that it was so obvious? I'm not saying it was completely obvious. Like, I was obvious when he was fighting. I was like, this isn't a normal Titan fighting. Right. But the reason why I think it was obvious that he could have had it, or at least believable that he could have found a way out, was because he wasn't chomped down. Yes, he lost an arm, but he was still moving around with a miss. Well, he missed the leg earlier on. He lost a leg.
Yeah.
But then, and so that's what I'm saying. He lost a leg, then he's in the mouth, holding it up, and I'm like, so then he could live. And then his arm got chopped off, and I'm like, that's hilarious. Like, in the sense that, like, he can still be alive, because,
Right.
you know what it is?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, right? Anyone that's like, no, Matt, he wouldn't be alive. Again, this is the fucking guy who apparently, without, you know, like, broken, the buckle was broken, but yet you're still so fucking cool.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, he's gonna fucking cut his way out and say something witty.
Right.
But thankfully, in a strange way, this makes more sense. Like him having some kind of power via the serum or via whatever else his dad may have. You know, I assume his dad maybe experimented. I don't know what is going on there. All I can say is I assume that, you know, his dad did something to him.
Right.
Because he clearly, not just the serum, like something else, clearly, because, again, he has powers. And I think that, in a way, it's funny, just really putting it out there. It makes more sense. It seems funny to say that because you look at the series and you're like, nothing makes sense. But it makes more sense as to why he regenerated his arm, you know, why he didn't die in there, why... It actually makes more sense why he was able to do that with the broken clasp.
Right.
Because he clearly has some kind of advantage.
And I also feel like it differentiates, like, you know, the three main characters that we're meant to focus on. Because, like, still, Mikasa is the best in their class. And I love that. I love the fact that she is basically... She's basically, like, the super soldier, the Captain America of their troop. She is unstoppable.
And it's funny because that happens while technically, due to a fucking serum, like, Eren should be the super soldier.
Right.
But I love that she's you know, in charge. She is the best in the class, which is why, and I'm sorry, I sound like a broken record to everyone, I wanted her to have more time after his death.
Yeah.
I wanted her to try to, and it was sad because we learned about her backstory. We learned that she's lost family before. We learned that she then lost the will to live, and it was super sad that all that happened to her. And I didn't want her to die because I would have been like, all right, I'm signing out.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, her just kind of getting him back. I was like, well, all right.
Yeah.
Sorry about having any development for the person who's the best in their class, despite the fact that Eren got a fucking super serum and still didn't do the, like, what is that? Do you look down on the dad? Like, well, you have a shitty super serum, sir.
Right.
And
I almost feel weird, like, sometimes. Like, I know Eren is, like, important to her in the sense, but I feel like they almost play up that too much in the sense that she's like, you know, oh, I'll always have your back, or it's like, you know, I'm alive because of you. It's like, no, I mean, yes, he saved you as a kid, and you're both very close, but like, a lot of that is still your own doing too. So like, it's weird sometimes.
I mean, well, I disagree because literally he stabbed 2 dudes for her. She would have literally been sold off to a prince somewhere.
Yeah.
And you know, they said it out loud to her.
I just feel like Eren seems to be her driving motivation for almost too much.
Okay, yes, well, here's the thing. One, that's a bad character trait. You're absolutely right, especially to give her, because I mean, but at the same time though, they do give it to him. Like, it's not like he says, hey, if you died, I'd be okay with it.
Right, yeah.
You know, he feels the exact same way. Like, even though they're not twins, they still rely on each other. It's just that he, like, arguably he wants to kill them more than she does, the Titans.
Yeah.
Arguably. Because the Titans didn't kill her family. I mean, they killed her new her new mom, but they didn't kill...
New family.
Yeah.
Right. He wants to avenge his mother's death, whereas Mikasa's more like, I want to protect the ones who are still alive.
And to be fair, the reason why she does this, I'm not saying it's fair, like, it's a good thing that happens, but the mom literally said, please protect him.
Right, yeah, that too.
But, I mean, you're not wrong in the sense that on the surface, it's really bad that it seems like her motivation, or a lot of her characters revolved around, you know, if Eren's gone, then I'm nothing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Eren is all she has left. So I would hope that if she died, really don't want her to die, I would hope that if she died, Eren would feel the same.
Right.
At least briefly, before being like, wait a minute, I'm going to cut out their eyeballs and feed it to them, like, the Titans. Like, before having that reawakening of anger, I would hope that he would take some time to also be extremely depressed, because, again, all they have left is each other.
Yeah.
Which makes me really think that the dad's dead or something, or at least they think he's dead.
Yeah.
Because it seems like, literally, they're like, all we have left is each other.
Yeah. And, like, they have Armid, too, but, like, yeah, he's a friend, but I like the fact that he's kind of coming into his own, too, because, like, sure, he's not the best fighter or anything like that, but he's a brilliant tactician, and that is exactly what they need, and it's beautiful.
It's interesting, because I think he's a guy, like, it's weird that, not weird, it's understandable that, when on the front line when you're fighting things like this, you still need to give him equipment too. But it's kind of one of those things where you kind of just want him to be away from the battle but still have like a radio or something.
Right.
Like you want him to be able to see what's going on but not be in it, because he's clearly not, at least at this point, not good under pressure, to where it's like, I wouldn't want him to be on the front lines whisking around telling people, all right, do this over here, do this over there. Because it's just like, no. Y'all have to stand on a rooftop and discuss this. Because then he'll know exactly what to tell you.
And I kind of hope that that's something that they get around to inventing, because it feels like a radio for them is not doable at this time.
I think you said this. Yeah, you said this to me. I think you said it before the show began. You said something of the product of your environment is the quote that you used, and I think it's funny because when I look at this show, I'm like, yeah, it's what your environment tells you need. So it's just like, do we need phones? Well, first we need to kill these giant titans. All right, let's get something that helps us fly. Like, but it's kind of funny. Like, that's just where they had to put all their technology into. Like, help everyone fly with, like, mini jetpacks on your legs.
The 3D maneuver gear, which is probably one of the coolest, like, gadgets I've ever seen come out of an anime series.
It's, very inventive is what I'll say.
It's weird. It's so weird. It's like, it's cables powered with gas, and then, it's just really interesting. And the animated shots with them flying around in some of the scenes are amazing.
It's both
really cool to watch.
I think some of the blending is a little awkward in the same way that Battle of Gods, and that Battle of Gods was like a movie that has a bigger budget than this show, arguably. Right. And even then, when they melded in the fights with, and I'm referring to like movie 14, not the super adaptation of it, it was a little awkward. Yeah. Right. But I want to say is that I was a huge fan of just how the design looked for the what was it called, the 3D?
Yeah, 3-dimensional maneuver gear.
Thank you. All right, guys, so we're coming back from some technical difficulties, but what I do want to say before we wrap some things up is I want to mention that I think the only artwork design, I guess, that I'm not a big fan of is and this is happening with Dragon Ball Super as well. I say this when we do the podcast for Anna Saturday on those. I'm not a big fan of them specifically showing the black lines around character designs, unless it's a comedic scene, or if the monsters have it, I guess it's okay. If the Titans have it, but when it's on people, it just kind of sticks out, and I'm sure it's made to have them stick out, right? But I don't know. It doesn't feel right to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it unless it's for comedy. So like when they have them standing there and it's just the black outline around their character models, I'm like, I feel like we could do without it. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say it makes it look too cartoony because, Matt, what are you watching? But I think you see what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking if there's anything else. Is there anything else you want to say about this before we wrap things up? Any final words on this half of the season? I really love the music for this series, too. Yes, the music is really good. Funimation even dubbed it, which is kind of interesting. Because, Funimation, has enough money to buy the inserts, like the rights to the insert songs. And in some cases, sadly, companies will not let you dub the insert songs. They say, no, you have to keep them the way we, perform them. Usually because there's an artist that they're trying to promote. The company that made the song is trying to promote. And then the anime creators, the original creators in Japan, will then pick out that song because they like it or whatever. And then it can't be changed. Thankfully, I guess maybe because Funimation is throwing money at people, or just because, they work with people that allow them to do that, they change and would rather dub over a lot of, not just the openings and endings, but even they didn't dub over this opening, thankfully.
Right.
It would not have worked. But they definitely dubbed over the insert songs because they were all in English and I can hear the voice actors. I'm like, I know you. You're a voice actor that did this character in this anime.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I like the music, definitely. You're right. Anything else you want to say about the show?
No, I think we've hit a decent amount for the first 12.
Of course. I just want to see where we go from here. I don't know if it's going to be another like time skip or anything like that. I just want to know, we got so much backstory, but I want to get more. Because like I said, I want to know what's up with Eren's dad, which I'm sure they're going to talk about that. But I also want to know what's going on
in the basement.
Right? Yeah, like I want to get in their basement, which is a weird statement. I want to see what's going on with the bourgeoisie, or just generally in that ring. I want to see, because like when we saw the king and he was eating like desserts, I was like, oh, well, fuck you too, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of sat back and I'm like, look, I understand there's a monarchy. That's how things were back then. I get it. But at this point, when everyone's suffering so much, just stab them in the chest and just give the resources out to the people. I don't really understand why you need to have a king. No, because, like, look, in my opinion...
Here you are questioning Eren at 7, saying, why are you stabbing people?
I'm 25. But I've stabbed plenty in my day after the...
Oh, man.
I wasn't 7 when I started, but...
Matt Marrero advocating stabbing people at 7 and 25.
I am advocating stabbing the monarchy. However, not the queen. The queen's a lovely person. No, look, I'm just saying that when you have someone that rich in a very small area, because it's not, I mean, it seems small to me anyway. Maybe we just don't get the vastness. I mean, we have them zoom out, but maybe we don't see.
Yeah, I think it's just such a large collection of resources in a small place.
I just think that we could have more sharing of said resources.
Oh, yeah.
When you have a king. That normally, here's the thing too, man. Normally, I feel like when a movie or a TV show shows a king, you sit back and you go, oh, I understand why there's a king needed in this world. Even if they're an evil king.
Yeah.
You still go, oh, but I see what the king does, despite the fact that they're evil and we should all hate them, yada yada, right? Here, I'm like, there are these titans, and then the military is doing all of the hard work, and some will say, well, that's always what goes on with kings. Really the person running the military is in charge. Yeah, but in this case, it's really accurate.
Right.
Like, I don't get what a king is even needed for. They don't have television or radio. How do they even get his kingly decrees?
Right.
So I don't... Like, we didn't even see the king until that one moment. I didn't even know they had a king.
I mean, I guess it's just their chain of command, basically. And then the army is the extension of the kingship. And the best positions are guarding the inner circle, being in the king's guard, because you're the furthest away from danger.
Right, sorry. They did mention the king earlier on, so that's on me. You're right, they did mention the king's guard. But it didn't throw me off immediately. I was like, I guess it was a king, sure. But then when seeing him, it just really, like, hit me. Like, wait, fuck are you doing here? Also, I want... Even though I saw the zoom out, I want to know more about their geography, their layout, because I just want to know, like, not like who lives where or who should be or can be living where, because you and I assumed before the show began, and still while we're doing the podcast, we assumed that like once you get into the higher rings, it's literally like you're going up the social ladder.
Yeah.
But the economic ladder. But I also don't understand like what would qualify someone to be richer, like to go into
the amount of land that they have and the amount of food, basically. I mean, I guess money still has a place, so, like, they probably have hoards of treasure and stuff like that, too, but, I mean, for me, who doesn't really put, like, obviously I put merit in food, but, like, merit in, like, oh, your wealth makes you who you are and stuff like that. But, like, because I always look at those characters that, like, oh, like the guy with the wagon, like, oh, I'm the richest merchant in this town. Like, I feed half of you. It's like, this wagon is going through whether, it has to be all over your bodies or not. And it's like, dude, I will like, Mikasa even walks up. It's like, I will kill you if you do not move this wagon out of the way. We are literally dying to get these people out of here, and this is why you're holding it up.
I loved it to death when he said, I'll tell the king. And she's like, that's going to come from a dead man?
Yeah.
Like, it'll come from beyond the grave? I was like, oh my.
That's like, she has her moments too, where it's like, no, you do not fuck with Mikasa. And I fucking love her character so much. Like, I love her. She's a badass.
Yes.
Plain and simple. That's
yes.
it.
Oh, so before we wrap everything up, one little small thing. I like that Eren didn't know how to control his powers right off the bat.
Yeah.
It felt real.
Yeah.
It felt a lot more, yeah.
It feels incredibly detrimental for their mission that they go on at the very last minute. And it's like, they repeatedly say it. It's like, this was a gamble. This was a gamble.
Of course. But it did feel more real, and I like that. Yeah. Where, I was worried, like, granted, yes, of course he got over it, but he got over it through the help of his friends, something that I was not worried that they would drop, because of course his friends had helped him throughout the show thus far. But
I'm glad it was Armin that got through to him.
Yes.
Brought him back.
Yes, give Armin a little bit of something.
Right.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I just think that, like, I was, like, thinking they would legitimately just make him come out of the Titan, and he just, not only would he be tightening around, he'd be like, hey guys, what's up?
Right.
Hey, look, it's Eren. Fucking Eren's here, right? Let's party, bro. Yeah, man. Woo. Like, I just thought, like, that's what they would be doing, and thankfully, no. They
doing, like, backflips and, like, struts through the town.
Man, Eren's so cool.
With one arm.
Literally, like, they're like, get him an apparatus.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, I'm happy that they understood that, like, we need to have him build himself up, and I'm happy
grow
into his his powers, and also that they had that commander, the head of the entire military, who not only gives the king sass but also sits back and says, look, we're not going to, because you have the other guy, the one that literally is very trigger happy, and he's understandably, though, I understand his thought process at the end. Well, I understand not him trying to kill the kids.
Right.
I understand him. I understand him trying to say, hey, if you leave, like, I could court martial you. You could be executed. I understand why he'd think that. Like, we need every person we have. Right. But then, of course, the commander understands even further. Like, no, if we're forcing them to do it, they'll just run on the battlefield.
Right.
And we don't need that either. So you know what? You want to leave? Go.
Right.
And also, he understands that this is such a huge risk that I think he doesn't want to sacrifice people on something that's a huge risk.
True. Yeah. I mean, it was going to happen one way or another, and he even says, like, if I go down as a butcherer in history, but I save humanity in the end, do it, Yeah.
All right, so I want to thank you all for listening in. Another Halloween in July episode. Sadly, the last Halloween in July on a Saturday, but it's okay, because we'll see you next year. We're obviously doing other podcasts throughout the year, but in terms of Halloween in July themed, we'll see you next year. Thankfully, we will be doing, Attack on Titan before next year, right? Don't worry about that. But in terms of doing just exclusive, more horror titles that we didn't start in Anna Saturday for this month, we'll see you next year. But we'll also do some horror titles for Halloween, for the real Halloween in October. So we will be coming back to you with some more horror stuff then. But, throughout the year, of course, we've done a lot of different anime over the years, because we've been doing this for about 4 years now, actually, Tristan. It hurts, doesn't it? How long has it been? For like 4 years. And you guys have been here throughout all of it. And if you haven't, well, thank you for being here now. So I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being here, Tristan. I know you've been talking to me. It's funny, you've brought up this anime to me every once in a while, but not a lot. But now I know that you're a lot more pumped about doing this, especially because season 2 just came out. So we'll definitely be talking about that soon. So that obviously the first half, or the second half of this first season first, but then season 2. So thank you all. Love you guys. Take care, and I hope you had fun. So good night, everybody.